Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be doing part 2 to this great story that I was covering earlier, all about the guy who out of nowhere, his wife wants to divorce him, and putting him through absolute chaos, and this guy where he left off got his strength back, got the help of his family, good attorney, and left off at the court hearing, and now we're going to continue on to see where after things were at a low point, this guy makes a major comeback and justice is served. I know a lot of you guys were dying to hear part 2 of this because I left it on another cliffhanger, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So, jumping back into it where things left off, he says, the next 6 months were torturous, but I will give you the highlights since the original story I typed up was very long, really long. He says, number 1, within 2 weeks of the restraining order hearing, Cindy couldn't work anymore because of depression. She had a doctor's note, so she would get a short-term disability. Remember he said that he predicted that was going to happen? Well, there you go. Number 2, Tim's single-wide ended up burning to the ground. Yes, while I was going through all this, I ended up having to help him sort through this. I just kept my nose to the grindstone and did it. In hindsight, I feel fortunate because my room was the only one not touched, so my collection of old books remained unscathed. Oh my God, your bro, your best friend that was there to help you, and he was doing good in the world and his freaking house burned to the ground? Oh my God, that poor guy. Number 3, Cindy and I both had psychological examinations completed. Number 4, Susan found out about Larry and Cindy sleeping together and the two of them moved out. He said that was going to happen. Larry's a dude that this guy's wife Cindy was cheating with. Number 5, Cindy made a offing herself attempt. He said that was going to happen. Number 6, the psychologist indicated that Cindy's attempt to end her life was confirmation of what he already figured out and recommended that I have sole custody of our son. Awesome. Thank the Lord. Essentially, Cindy was too self-involved to be a good parent and put the needs of her child first. Shocker. Remember, this is the woman whose other 2 kids were taken away from her. As a result, prior to the final orders being issued for the divorce, the court went with the psychologist's recommendation, and I was granted sole custody of my son. Awesome. That is so great. And we're getting that part right here in the beginning of the story, so everybody's cheering around the world for your victory. But then again, you really didn't have to do anything. You just had to sit back and let the crazy bee do what she did best. Be crazy, and there you go. You got custody of your son. Number 7, Cindy ended up having to go back to work because she wasn't getting the huge windfall of finances from me that she thought she would. The insurance company wouldn't back her claims for long-term disability, and Larry and Susan, who were always leeches, had moved out and couldn't help with the finances. Wonderful. And he predicted that part too. Now for the part where I get some payback. Dude, the fact that you didn't destroy yourself or let yourself be destroyed by her, and you got sole custody of your son, I mean, that's a massive victory in and of itself. And she had to go back to work. But hey, we like salt in the wounds here. We like, when somebody does us wrong, we like to twist that knife, right? And then pour some salt in the wound, and then rub it in, and then maybe put some flammable liquid in there and light the fucker on fire. That's what we do on this channel to evildoers. I hope this video doesn't get flagged for what I just said there. Maybe I should take it out. We'll see. Now for the part, I read that part. Although I have to admit, the truly awful part of the payback was issued by Julie and not myself. Yeah, Julie, the girl, the friend of yours that kept it secret that your wife was hooking up with some other dude. I still question this Julie chick's loyalty. She should have told you. She had no tolerance for the way Cindy had discarded a good man like me. She had always been a good friend to both of us, and during the divorce, Julie patiently refused to return any of Cindy's phone calls. While I believe that the best revenge you can have is to live well, Julie wasn't patient enough for karma to take care of things. Instead, she would use my own actions to get truly wicked revenge on Cindy. Hey, everybody's waiting. As the date of our final orders started looming closer, I came up with an idea how I might celebrate being free of Cindy. I want to do something unusual, so I ended up posting an item on eBay. The ad that I put up was that I was selling my first night of bachelorhood to the highest bidder. I don't really know why I did it, but I thought it could be fun. I posted a couple of pictures of myself and put in the terms of the posting that this night would include the following: dinner at a nice restaurant, a dozen roses, and a well-dressed gentleman. A dozen roses? What is this, the freaking Bachelorette or Bachelor, whatever those goddamn shows are, dude? Honest to God. I get why you're doing this, to rub salt in the wound. We're all about rubbing salt in the wounds here, but still. I also put in several things in terms of my listing. Number one, there was no promise of any escort activity with the purchase of my services. You're giving her a challenge. Number two, all bidders must be at least 18 years old. 3, the winner must be geographically located within 100 miles of my city. And number 4, my soon-to-be ex-wife was explicitly barred from bidding on this item. I told many of my friends and coworkers about the listing, and they all thought it was really funny. They also thought it was good to see me getting my groove back. When I talked with my sister over the phone, she commented that for the last couple of hours, I'd always sounded so tired and down, and now it was like her brother was back again. A man that was happy and excited about the future, no one that had been worn down by life and was constantly tired and depressed. Yes, my man, you're making your comeback. Another friend commented that it was nice to see me not always stressed. That as the divorce was proceeding along, I'd become more relaxed and able to enjoy things. In essence, he said I'd stopped being such a tight ass. Yeah, well, you know what? No one can. I don't blame you for being, if they described you as a tight ass, being that way, given all the hell you were going through. Jesus. I never realized the others had started seeing me in that way, but I was enjoying things more and more as things progressed. I was working hard at home, and at home being a single father, and even though money was tight, I was enjoying things more. A man can get by with very little. It's the women that have a problem getting by with little because they want to just have more and more shit. A guy can find a way to survive on very little budget and all that and be happy. And hey, you're free. You're free of her and you got your boy. Sky's the limit. What can I say? It was much easier to be the only adult in a family of 2 than to be the only adult in a family of 5. I received a call from an unknown phone number. When I picked up, I discovered that it was a local news station that had heard about my eBay ad and wanted to do a story on me. Now I gotta do some digging, man. I know this was like 20 years ago. I met her and she introduced herself to me. We talked a little bit as she set up a camera, and before I knew it, we were standing in front of the courthouse and I was being interviewed about the eBay date. She asked me questions about what the date included and why I was doing it. I admitted that I was doing it because I wanted to do something unusual for my first night of no longer being married, go outside of my comfort zone a little bit. So I'm going to stop your quick intermission, and this is warranted, guys, and say this. This was like 20-some years ago, obviously. If this happened now, because they're going to do this story on him, his first night of freedom, they would have twisted him totally into being the bad guy here. You know it. Absolutely know it. It was a few days later that the final orders hearing was supposed to take place. The auction for eBay was finished, and I had made arrangements with the winner to meet at the restaurant. I want to know how many bidders there were on this whole thing. After my story ran on a couple of news programs, I got more interest and I had 5 or 6 different people bid on it. But I didn't know the name of the person that had won my first night of bachelorhood. What if it was a dude? When communicating through eBay, the person said that she would meet me at the restaurant I selected that night at 6 p.m. I would know her because she would be wearing a bright red flower in her hair. This could be a movie. I met Julie, my lawyer, at the courthouse that morning. Julie said she wanted to come for moral support because she remembered how emotionally draining her own divorce was and how hard her final hearing had been. So Julie is the one you said in the other story, the other part 1, that she's divorced because her husband's cheating on her, and Cindy was cheating on you and she kept that secret. That seems nuts. Anyhow, during our lead up to this point, Julie had been another true friend to me, and I had come over to her home several times, often with Michael, to watch TV. I think I'm going to say what everybody else is thinking. Julie wants this guy all to herself. Tim was too frugal to have cable TV in the single wide, and I couldn't get the Sci-Fi channel. As I said earlier, Julie was also a Sci-Fi fan and welcomed both of us to watch the shows as long as I was willing to bring pizza. Works for me. We all walked into the hallway adjacent to the courtroom, and my lawyer asked Julie to wait down the hall so we could talk in confidence. Julie sat on the bench, and as I went down the hallway with my lawyer, and we could see Cindy sitting with hers. The proceedings aren't important to the story, and honestly don't have a lot of memories of the proceedings except a few things. The first thing that I remember was both lawyers stating the terms that had been agreed upon. The second thing I remember is walking out of the courtroom and looking down at my wedding band. I remember taking it off for the first time in almost 11 years. I remember looking at my hand and thinking how naked it looked. Julie came up to me, gave me a hug, whispering to me, "You and Michael are going to do just fine, John." Damn right. Then I remember talking with my lawyer as Julie walked away to talk to Cindy. Julie went to talk to Cindy. Cat fight in the courtroom. Cindy smiled at her pleasantly enough, but I couldn't hear what was being said, instead talking with my lawyer. I remember my lawyer told me that when I first came to her, she didn't believe that everything I said that Cindy would do would indeed happen, but that I called it perfectly. I shrugged and I told her that I'd been married to her for 10 years. I knew her behaviors, and I'd always been a check against her instabilities. I then told her that I was planning on liquidating my IRA to pay off the legal bills, and that there was still about $1,500 I would owe her, and that I'd like to set up for a payment plan. Well, ideally you don't liquidate your IRA, maybe borrow it from family or friends, but that's another conversation. She chuckled for a second and said, "John, you've already paid way too much in legal fees for this divorce because of all the crap your ex has done during the proceedings. If you pay me what's in the IRA, I'll forgive the rest." She could see on my face how relieved I was, and I thanked her. What kind of lawyer is this? To this day, I still use her for services because I would need to retain her for future dealings with Cindy. That was why she gave you the deal. She knew this shit wasn't over. As we were talking, it was then that I heard Cindy let out a banshee-like wail. I turned to see what had happened, only to see Julie walking away from her with a smug smile on her face, while Cindy started bawling and her lawyer was trying to calm her down and comfort her. She probably went over to your ex-wife and said, "I'm going to F him and do whatever he wants every night for the next year." When I asked her what she said to Cindy, Julie just smiled and said, "Oh, nothing important. Gee, who do you think won the eBay auction?" "I'll tell you later," she said, and refused to say any more, instead redirecting the question and telling me, "Besides, you need to go and get ready for your date, you man whore." She chuckled as she winked playfully while the three of us walked towards the elevators, leaving Cindy in tears. In the elevator, my lawyer told me that she saw the news report and she thought about putting in a bid along with her assistant, but she didn't think it would be appropriate since she was married. I told her that I wasn't expecting any romance, just a nice dinner. Besides, emotionally, I wasn't any place to have a romantic relationship. You're not, dude. No freaking way. On the other hand, it wouldn't hurt you to fuck something preferably very pretty. I knew that I needed to heal emotionally before I could go through that again. The three of us left the courthouse and I went home because I needed to rest some before going to pick up my son from school. I picked up my son from school and brought him home, telling him that I would be going out tonight, but that Tim had agreed to take care of him, and then I went about getting ready for my date. I'm half expecting the freaking news van to be following your ass on this date. I had all the arrangements made, and while I wasn't expecting to stay out all night, Tim assured me that if I did, he would make sure that Michael was dressed, fed, and at school the next morning if I did. I made sure that I was my best looking suit and picked up the flowers per the arrangement that I had laid out on eBay before I set out for the restaurant. Because you've been through hell, I'm not going to smack you for the flowers, although I should. I smacked you a lot in part 1. Flowers, God's sakes. I had a reservation and I finally arrived 5 minutes early. The hostess brought me to the table and I looked around nervously, wondering who my blind date could be. Man, he's thinking, please God, don't be some 600-pound boss hog's wife ogre of a woman here. A few minutes later, she arrived, and as you may have guessed, the woman that arrived with a red flower in her hair was, gee, who could it be? Julie. Big shocker. I'd always seen Julie wearing pants and a t-shirt, so this was the first time I'd ever seen her wearing an elegant dress. She had her hair and makeup done and it looked absolutely stunning. I stood as she approached the table and she gave me a kiss on the cheek, saying, I'm here for my date. So this is where a lot of people are going to call bullshit on this. I believe this guy, but you can see how people are going to call bullshit on this. Creative writing, something like that. It's a good story no matter what. As we talked and enjoyed dinner together, I asked her again what she had told Cindy, but she said, "Not yet. I promise I will tell you when the time is right." We enjoyed our dinner, and afterwards she told me we aren't done yet. It was then that she took me to a strip club. The two of us were the best dressed customers in the club, and Julie took every opportunity to announce to any strippers that I was divorced as of this afternoon, and she wanted to help me forget about my ex-wife. A couple of the strippers gave me free lap dances. So, she should have told you about your wife cheating on you and everything like that, but she's redeeming herself quite quick. After the strip club, I took her home, leading her to her front door. She invited me in, and once I was inside the door, she kissed me passionately before she took me to her bedroom. She threw me onto the... She threw me onto the bed and kissed me again before she said, "I'm going to tell you what I told Cindy now." Cindy asked me if we could get together for coffee, and that she missed our friendship. I responded that I thought she was a despicable person for what she did to you, and I never wanted to talk to her again. She kissed me again as her hands started working. Dude, this is not Penthouse. She broke the kiss, and then she said, "Then I told her, just so you know, tonight I'm going to take your husband to a strip club, and then I'm going to F his brains out so he never thinks of you again." Hence the banshee screaming and yelling and carrying on from your evil ex Cindy. She told me this, and I just remember processing it for a second before I said, "Damn, you're a vengeful little bee, aren't you?" She laughed and said, "Yeah, but tonight I'm your vengeful little bee." Well, I'm sure you got every possible freaky thing you ever wanted to do with her. I won't go into details of what happened for the rest of the night, but I'm sure you can imagine. The next morning, as I was getting dressed, I asked Julie what last night meant. She held me close and told me, "John, you're a close friend. I didn't want you to do something stupid. Or at least, if you did, I wanted to be with someone who loves you and that you could trust. I love you as a dear friend, and it's been a long time for me since I've been with anyone. I know you aren't ready for anything more, so I wanted to be your one night stand. I put a lot of thought into it, and it was a one-night thing. We are not dating. This is something between us, and someday maybe our friendship will become something more. Once you leave, though, you are still a dear friend. For those of you that are wondering, Julie got a job offer in another state a few months later, and we are still good friends." Which leads to connecting to your previous video, how after you divorced your wife, moved on, you weren't with Julie. Quite an interesting story here. Why have you not described what Julie looks like? We all want to know back then. While that's most of the story, I will give you a few updates about what happened post-divorce. Michael and I ended up moving into a small townhouse a few weeks later. We intended to buy it, but for the first couple months, we had to rent it because it was still listed on the mortgage of the house that I let Cindy have. I was still listed on the mortgage of the house that I let Cindy have. Why the hell did she get that house? But I guess, well, no fault divorce state. And it was only a matter of time before Cindy would have to sell it, and I just had to make sure that the payments were up to date until that happened. Not for her, but for my own credit rating. Sure enough, about a month later, she informed me that she was trying to sell the house and needed my signatures to close it out, which I was happy to do. In the end, Cindy had a check for the equity, and she moved into a nice apartment. I won't lie, seeing her in a much nicer apartment while my son and I were in a more modest townhouse stung. Especially since I knew she was basically living off the money from the sale of our home, her salary at work, and my support payments. Yeah, it's not like he was going to get off scot-free and not have to pay her anything or give her anything. I had to remind myself that karma does not always happen right away. The good news was that once my name was no longer on the mortgage, I was free to take out a mortgage on the townhome. The previous owner of the townhome was really nice about it and even let me deduct the first 2 months of rent that I paid for the cost of our new home. I literally walked across the hall after signing off on the mortgage to the house to start signing documents to buy my townhome. Great, my man. I tried to maintain a relationship between Cindy and Michael, but any effort Cindy made to be involved with Michael, as he was raised quickly fell up by the wayside within a year. She always had some excuse about why she couldn't do it. Eventually, Cindy mostly became a non-issue in raising my son. Good. The less time that your son's around that nutcase, the better. About a year after the divorce was finalized, I started dating a wonderful woman. This was after the psycho that you discussed in the other video. Okay, I'm making sure about that. A year after that, I asked her to move in with me. She was already over most nights anyway. We just added her name to the mailbox. Smack! I don't care how nice she was or cool she was. She shouldn't be moving in with you after a year. Goodness sake. I don't want you making the same freaking mistakes you made when you were younger. But the past is the past. A year after that, I asked you to marry me. Jesus, smack, too soon. And 15 months after our divorce, we made it official. And 15 months after that, we made it official. My new wife was also divorced once, her husband having cheated on her. Okay, she knows how it feels. We've been married 15 years, longer than either of our initial marriages, which both lasted 10 years. We're both still in love to this day, and the only red flag she has is that you tell us to look out for is that she is a nurse by trade. Well, uh-oh. Well, I'm glad you're still married, and it's a great marriage and all that. Good. Given that she has none of the other red flags, I consider this to be a yellow flag instead. Pay attention, my man. You never stop. You always look for the red flags. I'm telling you now. I hope I'm wronged. She also has 2 sons that are a bit older than Michael. As a result, even though he has 2 brothers, Michael really only grew up as an only child. As time went on, Michael saw more and more how unstable his mother was, but now when he says the name Mom, he's referring to my new wife, referring to Cindy as his biological mom. Ooh, I'm sure that pisses her off. He knows who really helped to raise him and provide a positive example of femininity. Good. I truly hope that your wife now is, as you say, fantastic and wonderful and supportive. And even though you rushed to move her in and marry her, and by the way, she was a single MOM in this situation, because you deserve good things happening. During the last 19 years, Michael and I have both seen growth. In my case, a year after the divorce, I attained a professional certification which improved my earnings significantly before I went back to school using my GI Bill to earn my master's degree in computer science. Good for you, bro. Always improving. Michael started attending martial arts in middle school, and shortly afterwards, I did as well. I figured I was already going to the classes when I took him. I might as well learn something. That is excellent. All boys should be training in martial arts or some kind of self-defense thing, bare minimum 2 years. Because 2 years of consistent training to really let the shit sink in. And that's awesome that you did that with him. A father-son bonding. The 6 years I spent training hardcore martial arts, Muay Thai kickboxing, boxing, and Krav Maga were probably the best 6 years of my life. Truly amazing. And the skills I learned, I mean, just the wonderful school and the friends I made, but the same friends that many didn't want to have anything to do with me after they discovered me on YouTube. They're fucking lost. But anyhow, I can still remember those 6 years in good memories. Anyhow, great job. During Michael's senior year, we both tested for our black belts alongside with each other and both earned it. Congratulations, fellow black belt. Gentlemen, if you have the chance to study martial arts alongside with your kids, I highly recommend it. One of the fondest memories I have involves the fact that I was able to take that test alongside my son, who I had seen grow into a fine young man. So, who can win in the sparring match? That's what I want to know. When I went for my black belt test, it was 3 hours long, and the instructor did it in July without the air conditioning on to make it as difficult as possible. And I had to go 3 rounds. 2 rounds with one of the instructors who's far better fighter than I am, or was, and one of my friends who was also pretty tough. 3-minute rounds, exhausting, at the end of the testing thing. And the instructor was fresh as a daisy and not tired on purpose to make me go through hell to get that black belt. And let me tell you, when I was done that test, and I had been kicked enough times and punched enough times, but I got that fucker too, I felt amazing. You never forget earning your black belt. My wife and I recently moved out of the townhome that I raised Michael in, using the proceeds to pay off our vacation property and to upgrade to our new dream home. We now live in our dream home and are looking to retire another 10 years with significant savings and plan to have a mortgage paid off when we retire. Awesome. Always have a plan. Finally, Michael has continued in our family tradition and is in the 4th generation in our family to volunteer for military service and is currently serving overseas. Thank you for your service, Michael. We need men like you. Well, that's the summation of the story of the divorce, which was the lowest point in my life, and how I came out stronger and better while issuing a little payback with the help of my friends and family. More importantly, my son, my new wife, and I are thriving. I don't feel any ill will towards Cindy anymore, since life has been less than kind towards her. Karma really does happen if you're patient enough, and decisions will come back to haunt you. Meanwhile, my wife and I are very happy, vacation often, and are looking forward to retiring and continuing to live the good life. Bro, you earned it. Absolutely. and Cindy earned what happened to her. Gentlemen, the big lesson I would impart is that no matter how rough life gets, if you keep your nose to the grindstone, it will eventually get better. As Winston Churchill once said, if you are going through hell, keep going. Yes, that was a great fucking story. I had really enjoyed reading it over breakfast today with my cat in my lap and my coffee, and I really enjoyed doing it again here. I'm so happy to hear. I'm glad you wrote in, man. I really am. You know, your other story was funny, but this is far better. Gentlemen, we all go through hard times, and times it seems like you'll never be happy again, or things will never get better, or whatever. You got to stay strong. Surround yourself with people that care, and find the strength that you know is down there deep, and you will be okay in the end. And the people that do you wrong, they're going to keep being a-holes, and eventually life will will strike them, and we will love every minute of that. So, bro, great story. Congratulations to you, your wife, and your son Michael in the military. I hope he stays safe, and I really wish you a great life. And I thank you for sharing this. Your story, believe me, is going to help somebody out there, and that's why I do this. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Give this dude a shout out for a great comeback, although I know you want to slap him a few times for the roses on that date and marrying quick, but it seems like everything's okay, so we hope there. And guys, if you got a great story to share about some hell you went through and a great comeback you made, or just anything that could be helpful and beneficial to the community, please send it in. And I'll definitely get to it when I can, but as time goes on, the channels grow, the more stuff I get, so just bear with me. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.